You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Good evening, Radio 1 listeners. Thank you for tuning in to The Lyndia Grant Show. Today is Good Friday. This is Holy Weekend. So we hope that you all enjoy your Easter Sunday, Resurrection Sunday to some, coming up in 2 days. I'm going to cut it short. This is the Lyndia Grant Show because Dana Stebbins already did an explosive interview earlier talking about Donald John Trump and, all the things that's going on. So let's go right now to Dr. Julianne Malvo. She's on every week. She talks about politics and the economy. Dr. Julianne, talk to the folks.
Oh, so much to talk about. And how are you this evening?
All right. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Good. I'm going to start with the gentleman from Maryland who was so-called mistakenly deported. Mm-hmm. His name is Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. His wife is a U.S. citizen. They have 3 children. He's 29 years old. They said it was a mistake. They don't want to bring him back. The judge has ruled that they must expedite his return. The president's attorneys, being just as they are, want to argue about what does expedite mean. A 3-year-old knows what expedite means. It just doesn't do it.
That's right.
But they don't want to do it.
And right away. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So they're saying they won't bring him back. The president, Bukele, from El Salvador, was here this week. He had a meeting with our president in the Oval Office with some of the cabinet members. And it was mostly all televised. Who does foreign policy on the television? But they had cameras the whole time, so there was no way to do anything confidential. The thing that was most alarming about this meeting, we know that Bukele has been kissing the thing that the president likes to have kissed. He's been doing that. So so we knew that. We knew that he probably would be inflexible. But what we did not expect, Lyndia, is for the president of the United States to say, they said they weren't going to bring Mr. Garcia back, and he said he would like to send U.S. criminals over to jail in El Salvador.
That's what I heard. I was shocked.
And Pam Bundy is looking into it. Mm-hmm. She's doing the research on whether they can do that. Now, we have some horrible criminals in this country. There's horrible criminals in the world. We saw the man who burned down the governor's mansion in Pennsylvania. With the governor and his family sleeping in the house. We've seen multiple rapes. We can call the list, but if these are U.S. citizens, they do not need to be deported, and that's what the president's opening up the door for, the possibility of deporting people because they're criminals. We have good jails in the U.S., I believe. In any case, I digress. The reason why this is important and why people have been talking about it, because basically our 47th president enjoys disobeying the law.
Yes,
he's like, I heard a columnist use the word lawless defiance. Mm-hmm. Lawless defiance. Some of the legal scholars are saying he's pushing the limits of presidential power. I mean, he's just doing whatever he feels like, and the people who oppose him have to go to court. Now, that is a expensive and lengthy process. Mm-hmm. So this could be drag on and on and on. Meanwhile, this man's children are growing up. His wife is without her husband. So he just doesn't care. But we see this time and time, he does it, and then he, almost like a kid, he grins, and declares victory. So when we look at this gentleman, Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia, I know a lot of people think, well, that's him, that's not me. Here's the point. He can come for you, too. What we know about this president is that if he pushes the limits of presidential power, is it possible that somebody could be deported accidentally? Maybe you thought you saw something, you were somebody else. So this is really something, Lyndia, that's very, very concerning.
Yes, it is. I found my passport today. I had been hunting for it because I really feel that I need to be able to put my hands on it.
Keep a copy with you too.
Yes.
Well, you know, I have to leave I'm leaving the country for a trip in May. Mm-hmm. We're going to, a group of us are going to Grenada to celebrate Malcolm X's birthday and his mother, to celebrate his mother. And one of the travel agent people said, well, you have to have your passport anyway. She told me, she said, much stuff that you start, you think they'll let you back in the country?
Yeah, you're the Angela Davis kind. You better make sure you got your stuff.
I'll be checking with my lawyer before I leave to make sure if they try to keep me, I have a way back. Mm-hmm. But a lot of people are just very concerned. So that's a really big thing. Now, the other thing, of course, we just said this man has no respect for the law. So what they're looking at now in the budget is rescissions. Rescissions mean Congress has appropriated a certain amount of money to do whatever. And rescission says, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to take it back. And see, the Congress who approved the money is a different Congress than the one that would now try to take it back. So the most recently proposed rescissions are for PBS and NPR, for public broadcasting system, and for National Public Radio. The money has already been appropriated. It's there. But Mr. Trump would like to take the money back. And because he has the Congress, I say it's a 60-40 that he'll take it back. Some Republicans do support public radio and public television, so there's a chance, you know, and maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene will be sick that day. But in any case, this is in the news because we're going to see other rescissions coming through. Now, we're going to go to tariffs and the economy because what we know about these tariffs. He started out saying he's going to increase everybody's tariff. Everybody's tariff has been increased by 10%, but China 100 and I believe 64%. So what this has done is destabilized the dollar. The dollar has lost 10% of its value since January 21st, with most of the losses coming in these past weeks when you've got the back and forth about the tariffs and this and that and the other. So the dollar is losing value, which, again, weakens our space in the international market. He doesn't seem to care about that. And in addition to the dollar weakening, this is a really big thing to have it weaken so much in such a short period of time. We now have other countries, the European Union has said that they're going to have reciprocal tariffs on the United States. European Union having been one of our greatest partners. What does that mean? Anything you had bought that was coming from Europe is going to go up. And then, because of what's happening in China with tariffs, anything that's made in China is going to go up if it hasn't gone up already. And that includes, we're right now in a production period. This is April. This is a period where people who sell toys are wondering, how many toys am I going to want? Because the toys are going to be twice plus the cost they were last year. So this affects the toy market. It affects our kiddies. I mean, that's not the most important thing for our kiddies, but just keep that in mind. Now, the big news, not big news, but the thing that's bothering me the most this week is the relationship between the United States and our universities, namely Harvard University. I want to shout out, so pleased that the president of Harvard said he was not going to buckle.
They sure did. I was excited about that.
They sent him the administration sent him a letter, told them what he needed to do, said that they needed to, they're doing this, they claim it's because there's so much anti-Semitism on campuses. But some of the things that they're doing have nothing to do with anti-Semitism. They want to have an audit of all academic departments. Well, that's just out of order, out of line, and out of control. I mean, that's not necessary. They want to change the disciplinary policy. Again, that's not their purview. That's the university's purview. Harvard University, Columbia, all these universities, they're private universities. They're not government agencies. Now, they do have government money, but let's be clear. No one is giving them government money. Harvard medical research, technology research, that's what Harvard and these other universities do. They provide value added. Mm-hmm. So what has happened now is $2.2 billion worth of grants have been frozen at Harvard. Initially, they were saying they were looking to try to take back $9 billion, but it turns out they can't do that. But they can take the two. Harvard was anticipatory. They actually took out a loan of Wall Street for $750 million, anticipating that something like this was going to happen. See, some people play chess. So let's put Harvard aside. I'm happy for that president. But let's just play this out. What would this mean? Everybody doesn't have the $53 billion that Harvard has in their endowment.
That's right.
So what does this mean to Howard University, which has a line item in the federal budget? Howard and Gallaudet are the only two universities in the country that have a line item appropriation. Will they go after that? Will they begin to look at what Harvard is doing? Given, the fact that they are already talking about no DEI, well, Howard is DEI,
Yes, it is.
So, we're looking at, and will they look at the African American Studies Department? Will it look at all of that? So while, on one hand, you say good for Harvard, and we do agree, they set a great example. The question now is what's going to happen to our 103?
Yeah, so there's more. We'll talk about that next week now because we're out of time.
Oh, I ran out of time again.
Yes, I'm at 13, 14 minutes now. But thank you, Dr. Julian.
Thank you, Lyndia. I apologize.
We'll talk back to you next week, and we'll go to our commercial break. Thank you.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington Informer religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a segregated Montgomery bus. In lectures on brotherhood, Ms. Parks often said, "People always say that I didn't give up my seat because I was tired. But that wasn't true. I was not tired physically. I was not old. I was 42. No, the only tired I was tired of giving in." Driven out of Montgomery by harassment and death threats, Detroit, Michigan became her new home. Rosa Parks will always be remembered as the mother of the civil rights movement. Raised in the AME church, she once said, "I remember finding such comfort and peace while reading the Bible."
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at WashingtonInformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it, be inspired.
And we are back from our commercial break. Thank you for tuning in to the Lyndia Grant Show. Now we're going to go to our second guest, Attorney Dana Stebbins. She's been on with us now for a couple of years. You all know her, so I'm going to save this time for Dana. Dana, tell me,
Yes.
what significance do these 4 words have to what we are experiencing in America presently? Do you want me to ask you one at a time, or you want me just to name them?
How about doing one at a time?
All right.
And then we'll bring them together at the end.
What is an oligarchy? I keep hearing this, oligarchy. Explain that
Yes.
to us.
Okay. An oligarchy is a form of government that is usually found in Russia or over Europe, the UK, all around the world. But it's a system of government where very incredibly wealthy people run things in their favor. Most of the time they are not elected, but they are brought into the circle of leadership by other wealthy people. And so a small group of wealth controls what happens. It's a form of government that involves the rule of a few persons or families. Now, I raised that
now.
word.
We're seeing it
We
now,
are
Dana?
seeing that now. Yes, we are seeing that.
With
Our oligarchs are Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Bezos, and I forgot that guy's name that started Facebook. Him.
Mm-hmm.
I'll think of it in a minute. Mm-hmm. But it's 4 of them. And then there are other smaller families that aren't billionaires but are multimillionaires that are also part of the group. And most of them are represented now in cabinet positions. All of those people in the cabinet are millionaires.
Wow.
Okay. So an oligarchy, the best thing to describe it is the reason they unite together is for corrupt and unjust purposes. They don't unite to make the world better for other people. They unite to make their world better for them. And if it involves illegality, unethical behavior, whatever it involves, their job is to protect themselves and each other.
And that's why they don't care about Social Security, something that we pay into. It's not welfare, public assistance. It was a deal that was made a long time ago, I think, with Roosevelt about you all give us some money and we're going to help you. And it was an exchange. All right.
Remember that the whole thing about the tax breaks to the rich means that you have to cut programs for the rest of us. Otherwise, you can't afford it. So in order for them to get tax breaks and not pay into the system, programs have to be cut.
And with them cutting hundreds, thousands and up, obviously it's like we don't care about you. We do not care.
No, they do not, and that's obvious. They do not.
Go to the next one, which is authoritarianism. Authoritarianism.
Okay. Authoritarianism in politics is the blind submission to authority and the repression of individual freedom of thought and action. It concentrates power in the hands of a small group, and those around them give into it blindly. So authoritarianism, we are now seeing in this country. Congress has succumbed, starting with the House, to the wishes of the president. Whether they're right or wrong, it's what he wants, and they are going to follow him blindly. The Senate now, that the Senate is predominantly Republican, has followed in their footsteps. And so it is close to tyranny, but not really, because they are so they follow rules so well
It's just that they make the rules work for only themselves. And they don't question and they don't allow anybody in the citizenry or who is not in their realm of power to question. They silence all dissent. They control the media. They control access to information, which is why the Associated Press no longer is allowed to come into the White House to cover press conferences. They decide.
But the judge said they could, and they still didn't let them in, Dana. The judge said they
still
could.
did not. They did, and they still did not let them in, which we're going to get to in a minute about how they have no disregard for the rule of law or judicial. But they control media. They control information. They do it so that they can do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
All right. The next one is genocide.
Now, you might wonder why I put this in here, and I will be very glad to explain it to you. Mm-hmm. Most people think about genocide, and they think about people killing other people, like, getting rid of them, eliminating them, right? Mm-hmm. But genocide really is the deliberate and systematic destruction of a group of people because of their ethnicity, nationality, religion, or race. And that destruction does not always result in death. That destruction sometimes means all of the cultures and values of that group of people is eradicated, as in DEI, eradicated. Mm-hmm. No longer do you have any diversity, equity, inclusion as a value in the United States of America. It also is revisionist history, where you wipe out the history of a group of people, which is happening now with books being banned and Black history not being taught, and a discussion about slavery being a voluntary thing that happened where Black people decided to volunteer and be slaves to white people. So when you deliberately and systematically destroy a group of people because you destroy their culture, you destroy what they believe in, you destroy their values, and you limit access to anything that is not other than white, other than European. It is so close to wiping, the same thing as wiping out the Jews during the Holocaust. Mm-hmm. It is what's happening in Israel, in Gaza, where the Palestinians are being eliminated. Theirs is all by bombing, but it's also starvation, it's also rape, it's also a number of other horrible things. We haven't gotten there yet, but where we are is obvious that they are trying to destroy a group of people, and usually those are people of color. They talked about sending people of color back to their own countries where they came from, even though most of them were born here. They talked about locking them up. They talked about a number of things that would eliminate us.
Mm-hmm. That's right. I've heard it. Mm-hmm. Okay, I want to talk some more about that, but got to let you finish. Constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis.
People have been saying on some talk shows that we are in a constitutional crisis. Let me tell you what a constitutional crisis is, according to Amanda Frost, who's a law professor at the University of Virginia Law School. A constitutional crisis occurs when one branch of government, usually the executive branch, blatantly, flagrantly, and regularly exceeds its constitutional authority, and the other branches are either unable or unwilling to stop it. So it is very clear that this president, I'm quoting her again, has gone beyond the powers of the executive branch. He has usurped Congress's power of the purse by freezing agency funds, withholding money from institutions and organizations. He has changed the tax code. He is holding money now, billions of dollars, from universities like Harvard because they won't knuckle under. So he's using the power of the purse, which actually belongs to Congress. We are supposed to expect Congress to handle the budget. And he is trying to put an end to birthright citizenship as an example of going beyond his constitutional powers. So a crisis occurs when the executive does that and no one can seem to stop him. And that is your point about the courts. The courts have consistently ruled against these activities. A few courts have ruled in favor, but most have ruled against the firing and the dismissal of all these federal employees, the elimination of programs, the targeting of the African American Museum of History, saying it will withhold money from that. We have seen what he is doing, but the courts, even though they have ruled against him, are being ignored. He is doing it anyway and daring someone in the court system. Now, several days ago, the United States Supreme Court, which is the highest court in the land, told him that he needed to find a way to bring back that gentleman who they sent illegally. Illegally. They had no basis to send him. In fact, there was a court order that said he could not be sent back to El Salvador. They sent him anyway. The Supreme Court ruled that he had to be brought back. They are arguing that they do not have any power to go into another country and get anybody out of prison and bring them back to the United States. So they are fighting now the Supreme Court. And there's no higher court they can go to. They are just saying, you're wrong, we can't do that, and we're not going to do that. So we are in a constitutional crisis because when one branch, we have three equal branches of government. When one branch controls everything and the other branches cannot find a way to check him or balance him, no, we're out of balance, and we're in a constitutional crisis, Lyndia.
Okay. Well, just give us your close because we used up your time. Give us your close.
Well, even though I have laid this all out, because I want your listeners to really think about what's happening. Don't just ignore what's happening or think it's too bad I can't listen to the news anymore. Please think about what's happening. And then remember that the only way any civilization survives this kind of tyranny is that people rise up, they speak up, they vote. They vote out the people who are giving in to this, and they vote in other people. They speak out, they go to forums, they write letters, and I'm urging your listeners to do just that. Don't sit on your hands and say it's all over. It's not all over. Fight.
All right. Thank you, Dana Stebbins. We're going to talk to you again next month. We may have to call you earlier because there's so much going on.
Okay.
All right, stay right there. We're gonna go to our close, but stay right there. Thank you for tuning in to the Lyndia Grant Show. I gave Dana a lot of extra time, so I'm gonna skip all of my things I like to say at the end, and we're just gonna say think on these things. Tune in again next week to Think on These Things, the Lyndia Grant Show.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on These Things with your host, Lyndia Grant.